Recording? Okay. Roll call.
Rob Wilkerson.
Here.
Jeff Perry.
Here.
Will Harris.
Here.
Brad Carlberg. Sid Stephen.
Here.
Randy Lewis.
Here.
Brad Carlberg here. I was muted.
Thank you. So that's everybody that's supposed to be here, right? All right. Approval of the meeting summary, November 6th, special meeting, and November 18th, regular meeting. Everyone had a chance to review and put their comments and inputs to the staff.
Yeah.
Okay, so hearing no revisions and et cetera.
I motion we approve the 6th November 2024 special meeting notes or summary and the November 18th regular meeting minutes as written.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved to second, and all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, does anyone have any revisions to the agenda as published?
I'm gonna add one thing.
What a surprise.
Thank you. And you are moving to revise it?
To add to the and the section 1, just discussion about emails protocol meetings.
Okay, so let's make it item H.
Please.
Email protocol.
Please. Thank you.
And let's see, Mike, you said you were going to second it.
Yes.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we've approved the amended agenda. All right, so does anybody have a conflict of interest in anything on the agenda?
Nope.
Okay,
No, I don't.
thank you. And the next meeting is going to be on the 13th, a special meeting, and after that, we'll have the normal meeting on the 27th. All right, so do we have any commission or staff updates?
The only staff update I have is that the countywide planning policies are scheduled for January 21st with the Board of County Commissioners for public hearing.
All right, so we have a date, okay. All right, so nothing from the commissioners? Okay. All right, other business. In January of every year, we go through the election of the chair and the vice chair. So come January 27th, we're going to be open up nominations for the chair and vice chair. So if anyone has a burning desire to be in the chair or be the chair in the chair, please contemplate it and do your thing next time. Okay. Now, Jeff.
Quick thing. Just want to make sure that I know nobody has any evil intent or what have you, but when we have these emails that go out, don't say I'm for this or for that, because it starts to look, especially if you're emailing to the whole group. I know there's no ill intent, but it's it can constitute a meeting, and we don't want to go down that path. And so just be on your toes. It's one thing if you email one party, it's fine, but when it's especially the whole 4 or more, it can constitute a meeting. And I saw that and I thought about it and I said, I'll just wait till our meeting and discuss it. And
Yeah, that makes sense.
just as a
Some of us
reminder.
commented on Mike's 5. Yeah.
Right. No,
Which I succumb to temptation.
right. No, I understand. And
No, you're right. You're right.
There's
Shouldn't do
no,
that.
I realize there's no ill intent. It's just that it gives the appearance that there's a meeting happening and we don't.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
So,
that we are coming to a consensus without public
I agree.
visibility and
So-
public comment.
so
Right. Absolutely.
not trying to rat out anybody, just trying to say, keep us, it all reflects on all of us.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
that's it. Thank you.
all right. Public comment on topics associated with or not associated with the planning commission. So anyone want to talk about something that's not on the agenda? Should state your name.
Hi, my name is Kirsty and I'm a resident of Shelton County. And I would like to say that after my last meeting that I attended in November, I want to remind the members of the PAC that first and foremost, your position is to act as a voice for the public in matters like the comprehensive plan and as a go-between for the public and the commissioners. If there's an attitude of disregard for public comment, opinion, and voice, and that includes a disregard for actively pursuing public opinion outside of this room, that's a failure in fulfilling the responsibilities of your position. And we have to work together as for the betterment of our community. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I say full name or just first name?
Your full name.
No, my name is Alan Ramirez. Just came here to say a pretty generic public comment. I found the whole experience of being in this room with you all. It's been a very, I want to say, fulfilling experience, getting to see how these sort of decisions are made that the public may not necessarily seek out. I just think it's a very interesting process, especially seeing how these meetings differ from other meetings that I've been to, like the school board meetings. I see almost how much more professional this seems in those, in some aspects. Yeah, I just wanted to say it's been a fun experience being here with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have one online.
Okay, online.
Go ahead, Ben.
Are you taking comments?
Yes, we are.
Hi, Ken Van Busker, Belfair. Just wanted to bring to your attention that the Board of County Commissioners is considering some revisions of Title 17 and some other codes tomorrow at their commissioner meeting. And they, at one point during the briefing I attended, I heard them say that it had been sent to the planning department, but I don't think the planning commission has been involved with any of that. So I just thought I'd let you know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else online have any comments? All right, hearing none, we will move on. Okay, short-term rentals. Staff. You can put up
I
the table.
will try to be louder. Can you hear me now? Yes, you can. Okay. Okay, so this is a continuation of the public hearing that we held on the short-term rental regulation review. At the last meeting, the public comment was closed. I'm just going to do a short little recap on the process and then talk about some staff recommendations. So we started this process back at the end of November 2023, and where we opened a survey for the public to comment on this topic. We got over 1,500 responses from that survey, and we took that information to the Board of County Commissioners We had a couple work sessions with them and the county commissioners outlined some points that they wanted us to address in draft regulations. Staff then prepared a draft and brought it to this commission for review. We reviewed that in June. The PAC didn't make any decisions at that time. That draft was about halfway finished at that time in June. Then we brought it back in October. Yeah, October. And that was the full draft, and we had public testimony. We also had public testimony that was written comments. That was all provided to the PAC as well as the draft. Like I said, the public comment was closed at our last meeting. The commissioners at the time believed they needed more time to review the draft and maybe come up with their own suggestions on regulations. PAC members all reviewed the draft and submitted those revisions to one of the PAC members to combine. They did so and then provided it to me. I put together a draft that just a discussion draft that outlined the staff suggested revisions and some boxes just to highlight the suggestions from the original draft language. And then on some of the comments, I did have responses just for comments that may be conflicted with state law or maybe weren't indicated as a point that the Board of County Commissioners wanted to pursue. So staff did address some of the revisions that the PAC members made, but not all of them. So the PAC members also provided, not all of them, but some of them provided commentary on their suggested revisions. From that commentary, there was one member that believed that the the draft that staff had provided was on par with many other jurisdictions, but they did have a couple of comments, suggested revisions. I had one PAC member that wanted to be a little bit more strict with those. And then from 3 other members, the initial impression from their commentary was that there was doubt that short-term rental regulations were needed based on different things. Some mentioned lack of, for instance, mentioned a lack of data. Why couldn't we just rely on what the state already had as rules? And that we already had, the county already had regulations on the books that should cover a lot of the concerns. So from that, staff is asking the Planning Advisory Commission to recommend, and they can recommend something other than these 2 that are provided in the report. But there's 2 recommendations in there, and one is to make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners to approve adopting the short-term rental regulations at this time, or review the PAC suggested revisions and staff responses and continue refining the draft short-term rental regulation. The one thing that I want to note though is that having conversations with other staff, if we decide to go further, the other suggestion I would make to number 2 there is if we continue to review them, I would suggest reviewing them at a later date in 2025. And that is only because of the comp plan that we're in the middle of right now. And the other thing I want to note is we can't have a short-term rental program without funding. The only way we have funding is if we have permits. That's the only way we pay staff, and that's the only way. Turn it over to the PAC for questions or discussion.
Good, thank you. All right, commissioners, what do you think? Don't all
Well,
speak at once.
My opinion is I kind of agree. We've got the comp plan coming up. Seems like a lot of input on the short-term rental thing. Philosophically and specifically, seems like it's gonna take a lot of time. My attitude right now is let's defer it till after the comp plan.
Not exactly what you said.
Well, I agree with the concept to defer it because we have the comp plan. Whether that's exactly what you said or not, I don't know.
Brad? You wish to comment?
Not right now,
Okay,
although we could defer it, sure. Because we haven't had a chance to review it enough.
Yeah, I looked it over and I think it's probably a good idea to defer it for a little while longer, just because of the other agenda that we have to take care of. It looks like there is some items there that, that we all revised a little bit that probably need some fine tuning. If we don't have time to do that in the next couple of meetings, then we should probably defer it.
Well, I think, my, my opening opinion on the document that went in there is kind of my position, which is basically, it seems like there's a lot of legwork that needs to be done before we can come to, agreement on things. I think like I pointed out in the opinion, I don't disagree that there's need. I don't disagree that there's problems out there that are occurring. The problem I have is that we're going to create code or recommend approving code. And we don't really have a plan how it's going to work. And I'll give you an example. Okay, so we think, at least what it's been mentioned, there's like maybe 1,100 short-term rental, facilities within this county. Well, okay, and we've talked about staffing, first of all, one from planning. It's at least been discussed. Well, my simple math says, okay, that means somebody's got to be going through about 5 a day, 4 to 5 applications a day, all year long. If you're, in my mind, it isn't a matter of just, getting an application, stamping it and moving on. I believe that party is going to have to do some reviewing, see if there's any complaints, see how they're handling things, see if they're holding their part of the bargain or, the agreement. And where I'm going is I don't see that like one person takes care of the problem. Then we have the issue of violations and how that's handled. And there's extra time of the sheriff's side of the equation on some of these occasions. And there's extra time of health department coming out and checking things. And it's like we have rules and regs for a lot of the items that I've heard discussed and seen listed in the 1,500 responses. And yet, personally, when I look online, how do I engage my county to work on the trespassing and things like that are a little clearer. You dial 911, but then you get into things like, who do you complain to and how do you complain? You file a complaint with, like, say, garbage or parking or whatever, noise, that kind of thing. And at least when I looked at our online pages and complaints forms and what have you, I don't see how even today, how just taking somebody next door that's causing a problem, other than the more criminal side of the equation, I don't see nice, easy way to, file a complaint. So, I mean, I would like to see us keep stats and see where we go, what's happening in 12 months and see where this goes and see just how many problems we're having and where those problems really are. So, I'd also, there's nothing you can do about it, but I drilled down a couple different statements to see where people are coming from, and just not so much talk to these people, but just look at it. And there is some misrepresentation of what the problem is by different parties, both sides. I'm not saying one or the other, but it makes me nervous recommending things and listening to parties, and then you start looking in the data, what are being said and what's happening is not lining up. So anyway, that's a long word.
I would add though, or not add necessarily, but maybe to clarify the the issue of permitting and that kind of
Sure.
cost. I think a lot of that's going to be front loaded in the first year or so. Because once that's done, it's a streamlined process from my experience in the, I mean, I have a rental in, not around here, like I've said,
Right.
but in two other
Are you talking
jurisdictions.
talking from the applicant point of view or from the county's point of view?
Well, for both, actually.
okay.
I mean, because it would seem to me that those costs of once you have in this case, 1,100, rentals, let's say,
Yeah.
after the first couple of years, the county's going to know who these people are. They're
Right.
going to see a history.
Sure.
If there's some bad apples in there, they're going to know who they are pretty quickly. And then they can get vetted out.
And that's fine. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I don't see it making it free. Okay, there's another example. We have something called the tax shifter of the system of the county. You put like, or it's linked, like for permits and stuff like this. Are we going to link in these applications so people can see what's happening, around them? Nobody's discussed that. And so I'm not saying I'm against adding the regs or for adding the regs. I see an issue that needs to be addressed, but at least where we are right now, I don't believe, when I say we, the greater county,
Right.
have done our homework enough to intelligently apply something. That's just my feel, looking at all these complaints and looking at, our testimonies and all our inputs. I'm taking the 30,000 foot view and summing it up and say, putting it in one or two paragraphs and saying, it may not be popular what I'm saying, to one party or another, but this is what I see.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw a different perspective out there. I don't think delaying is an option. Okay, and I say that in that it's been here for a year, give or take, in some construct. We've had multiple hearings with the Board of Commissioners where they've had public meetings, express some of their views. We have had a 3 or 4 month pause on STRs because of comprehensive plan issues. That was thoughtful, but nonetheless, it's calendar time that passes. My concern is if we delay it, particularly a year, we're basically looking at 2 years before we're going to have a plan in place. My question is that responsive to our community?
No.
And I don't think it is.
No.
Okay. And so I think what we need to do is, my opinion is we have time on the clock here for about the next 45 minutes, per the agenda to discuss this. And if we can't get to a decision on a recommendation, I think as a minimum, we need to walk back to the Board of Commissioners through staff, find the appropriate avenue to do it. But I personally believe we need to stand in front of the Board of Commissioners. We could be one or many of us. That's a detail for later. And tell them what we think and why we think and what we see the obstacles are, and then get guidance or get direction from them, or they may just say they're going to move forward with whatever, something, nothing. So no, I don't think we ought to delay. I think we owe the Board of Commissioners, I think we owe the county as a minimum, a stand-up response. Some other challenges I think we're going to have, Jeff. I love the data guy, okay, because I'm one too. If you read my commentary, it's it's data-based from what I could find. Again, I'm not saying it's complete, but I don't believe in a year, I don't believe in 3 years, we're going to have that much better data unless we have a specifically registered list of STRs and we specifically track that sector of our community. Okay. When 911 calls come in and someone says, I have a party next door. I don't believe the comment is, hey, I have a short-term rental next door and those folks are partying. And so, trying to track an STR violation versus some other noise or fireworks or trash or sewage or whatever, I think can be challenging right now. Because that's not necessarily, to my knowledge, a block that we check in when the reports come through. And there's many areas of the county these things come in. It's not like there's the STR hotline or something. It's not. So I guess I just feel that we ought to, try and move forward and there's no surprise. I'm standing on more regulation light than regulation heavy. I feel in this case, a fee is basically an indirect tax on short-term rentals. We don't have staff to go out and do certain things. And so we're going to fee folks so we can hire staff. So we have folks that have problems with garbage. As folks know, I've knocked on a lot of doors. There's a lot of other houses that if you think STRs have garbage for a week, yeah, see, folks have 3 to 6 months of garbage in their front yard. They exist, including in the city of Shelton. Noise, probably less of an issue. I think that frankly is one of the biggest issues. And I think it's a very complicated issue to try and address. If you go to Sheriff Sperling's, he has multiple breakfasts throughout the county every month. And he's very open. He goes, there are certain offenses that he just simply doesn't have the staff to get to. Noise is one of those. So even if we, I think it'd be very, I would really enjoy watching a discussion on potentially hiring a deputy just to address noise complaints. I'm not sure how well we as a community would really respond to that. And I think when we get into some of the others, like inspecting, if we inspect, let's just pretend I built a house in 2000. In 2015, I made a short-term rental. And now 2024, I'm now going to permit it. And we're going to go inspect it to make sure it passes code. Which code? 2000? Because that's when I built it. 2015, that's when I made an STR, or today. And those codes differ. Frankly, if we use today's code, my 2000 house may not pass and therefore would be deemed unacceptable as an inhabitable facility for STR, but it would pass for a house. Think of all the new environmental stuff. That's where I'm going. The increase installations, carbon reduction.
And Jeff will be our subject matter expert on that one.
Could be, don't know. And that's where I struggle is we have some of these as with some of the suggestions, there's HOAs out there that have existing processes they used. They'll have to change how they do business because of how we're writing this ordinance. That's why I'm more light.
That section of the code that you're referring to? Because that's not staff's understanding that that's.
Okay, well then I may have, Kel, I'll point out what I thought, and if I misspeak, I will certainly be corrected. That's not an issue at all. Okay, I am human. I definitely make mistakes. Ask my wife.
So do we have time to review these revisions we made and make comments?
Well, I think the most fundamental question, Mike, is do we believe, at what level do we believe regulation is needed? So the state sort of has a minimum, and that's very high level.
Yeah.
It's pay your taxes. If you use a platform, the platform will pay taxes. So there's some basic life safety. There's some basic information you have to provide people. I'm probably missing a couple of things in there. Okay. But that's at the state level. And then you get down here and then as soon as you immediately say, well, we have to inspect something, we have to do this, that, or the other thing. There's lots of other stuff The biggest issue is who, and therefore now you go down registration and fee.
Yeah, because what, I mean, I'll go back to when I first looked at that a year ago. And coming at it from my experience, I was like, I don't have any problem with this. I'm ready to prove it right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm coming at it from somebody who has short-term rentals. So I don't, I'm good with it. I mean, if there's not a whole lot of revisions we need to make, then
Yeah,
I'll retract what I said earlier. And,
Well, we have reviewed the various versions provided from staff. And this is a very emotional issue. We have heard very passionately from the county constituents, both sides. And we're at the point now where we need to do something. Okay. The commissioners would like to see something. Staff did their due diligence and provided us with text to read and to kind of digest. And we have done all sorts of tinkering with the words. Again, this is a very emotional issue. But this commission is been asked by the commissioners, Board of Commissioners, to do something, and they expect something in return that is draft or text for an ordinance that they can review and, after they do their thing, go through the review and approval process. So it would be in our interest to provide them with something. They wanted it earlier and then we just didn't get there. Now, Marissa, what were the two options that you provided us? Did you refresh our memory?
Like I said, those aren't your only options, but
Well, your recommendation.
you can recommend to the board that if you can't agree on draft regulations, you can recommend to the board that you don't think the county should have regulations at this time, or you could continue with the revisions. But that was the one that staff was recommending as continuing later in 2025.
Okay, thank you. So,
Well, my concern, I'm not, if we're going to, if we feel we need something right away, I don't know, my percent, we're okay with the current document. Well, which version of the document? Because we have all kinds of suggestions here. All I'm saying is a comp plan should be a priority. And maybe we do owe them something, I don't know. I'd hate to come, and our deadline is, end of June for our deliverable. I'd hate to get to May and we're still trying to iron out short-term rentals. I don't know.
okay, Brad, we haven't heard from you. Do you wish to chip in something here?
Well, when I corrected myself and said I would have a problem with postponing it, I certainly didn't mean postpone it for a year. I said maybe just 2 months, and but staff made a couple comments about not having the personnel to monitor or check. I made a comment to in our short-term rental document to say require short-term rentals to have a UBI number registered with the Secretary of State, and that way they would actually monitor whether their taxes were paid. If they did not file taxes with their annual report to the Secretary of State for their business license, then they would be in clear violation of the law. So that would, I guess my point is that's something that the county would not have to monitor. We could rely on if we require a business license, which I think we do, I think we probably could take our document and see where there were a couple conflicts in them. So if we just clean up those conflicts, then it would be, then just give that document to the commissioners.
Okay. Anything else?
No,
Okay, thank you, Brad. Okay, so we've heard from the commissioners and opinions, et cetera, et cetera. We've heard from staff, read their suggestions. So what do we want to do? Do I hear a motion?
Can I make another comment real quick? Sorry.
Sure.
The one thing I suggested in my commentary was, and Will had alluded to it, there's state laws, there's county laws that covers STRs along with everything else. So let's document those, and then what specific STR ordinances do we need that aren't covered already by existing ordinances or RCWs or whatever? Seems kind of weird to me to have ordinances that are duplicates of what's already out there.
I believe, Randy, part of the reason, and someone up here help me if I booger this up. I believe part of the reason is if we specifically call it out in, section 17 triple I, and then we have registration and fees, those fees can then be used to hire the appropriate personnel to implement said regulation. So right now, where we are maybe light in other areas of the county to enforce, we would have a team that could specifically look at this subset of the community. Am I in? Okay, I got a head shake up and down, so it's a win. So that's the why.
Why, what? No,
The why is you put it in a specific section that's also associated with registration and fees. And then the fees can hire an enforcement team all under one section, one ordinance, and then you can go enforce that ordinance.
I guess pretty much what I'm saying, yeah, but that sounds like something that would be specific to STRs that we want to have ordinances for.
Yeah, that's why.
But there are things in here that seem to be duplicates of existing state, and that's all I'm saying. I don't think I disagree.
Well, but the difference is let's pretend for a minute we withdraw the sewage piece. So,
Which piece? I'm sorry.
Let's pretend we talk, so within the STR ordinance, I believe there's language that says you can't release. Okay, which is totally appropriate. We want to properly treat our sewage. All right.
Right.
Well, that's also in other ordinances. But if we remove that from the STR ordinance, okay, because it's already covered, then you can't fee someone to create a staff member to go look at it, and therefore you can't cover that piece. We already have issues with noise and fireworks and oyster poaching, whether that's at state or the county level. So if we take all that out, then your fee is based on a very limited need and doesn't address some of the needs of our community that lives next to these that deal with these topics.
But
And
it seems like,
you need the fee to get the people to go enforce.
is your fee gonna cover enforcement just for STRs or for the county in general?
This is just for the short-term rental program.
Okay. Because in my opinion, this is more of a countywide enforcement issue, lack of funding and all that. And do we want to implement STR ordinances that create a fee to take care of bad behavior just for that category of houses, and everything else remains unfunded and unresolved? Do we want to do that? I don't know.
Well, it seems to me the Board of Commissioners approved the fiscal 2025 budget. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if we do go forward with this, then that would be a delta to the their 2025 existing budget, which is an increase in statement of work with no funding, as you kind of alluded to. So
Not sure I see it that way. Yeah,
anyways, we're getting off subject.
yeah,
It's kind of, we have a chicken and egg issue.
Yeah, I know.
yeah, I wouldn't worry
Okay.
about that.
Right.
Yeah. If we, let's just pretend for a minute that an ordinance is passed, there is registration and fees. We at this level don't worry about how
Right.
staff works through when
Right.
do we start collecting, when do we start hiring,
Well,
who do we
prove
do it?
now, and
You know,
how
what
long is it
computer
gonna take to
program
really
do we
get to-
register them in? Is it,
Yeah.
staff will handle that.
Yeah.
We trust that they go do that.
So how would we,
Is that fair?
yeah, so how would we make the motion to approve? What actually would we say? Because I'll make it. I just need to know exactly.
Well,
what
you could
language.
say, I move to approve the da-da-da-da.
What version? And that's
Yeah.
that's the catch. So,
Let me say latest version.
at this point, I guess there's a couple of options. One, take the original staff version without any of our comments. That's a set version. Marissa, if the last version you sent out as is was approved by the PAC, is that adequate to work with, or are there some unknowns in there that you need us to address prior to approving it? While she thinks about that
That's
and
a good way
do
to
her
put it.
appropriate
Yeah.
due diligence. So that's one. The other is to go through the commented version we have and basically go section by section to say, okay, what does, sort of the majority want to do with this?
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I was asking a minute ago, was if we have
We
time to do
actually
that.
started going down that path and
Yeah.
line by line of comments.
Yeah, well, and that's what we have. We could likely have Marissa or Mariah, whoever's driving the screen up here, bring up the short-term rental, the meeting discussion draft, public hearing, STR regulations with all the comments and everything in there, along with staff recommendations on disposition of some of our comments, and start to go through it from that perspective. And then I think as a very basic start, the question is, do we register? Do we go beyond the state? Do we register and fee? That is a very basic question.
Yeah, and that would be through an annual permitting process, right?
You're right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really outside of the scope of what we as a commission.
No, but not the how, but would we recommend one?
Yes. I would.
Okay, that's a very basic question, I think, because, as Marissa, and I'm trying to be neutral here, folks, as Marissa sort of summarized our comments, there were some that said, hey, sort of implement the state, we don't need to register. Some said, no, we do. Some were about aligned to what was last drafted. Some are more restrictive and believe more needs to be added. And I hopefully I'm being neutral in there. Okay, good. You're agreeing. I like that. So if I'm not motioning, but if someone was to motion, hey, recommend we take the staff recommendation, we don't address any of the past comments. Is that draft executable, or are there issues we need to address? Because sometimes you have questions in there.
The draft that I provided, the original language that's there would be a draft that I would recommend. That you recommend.
Yeah, it's executable. Okay, does not need additional work. Okay,
So that would be the latest revision provided to the PAC.
Yes.
ignoring all our comments. Yep,
Correct.
you got it.
So,
Yep.
so if Mike wants to move
Mhm.
that we approve the latest revision as submitted to the PAC by staff,
Mhm.
that would be clear enough of a motion.
Yes, because all of us reviewed and commented. That is a clear motion.
And is that what you want to say, Mike?
That's what I want to say. I'll make the motion. to approve that latest staff recommendation for the short-term rental regulations.
All right, so it's been moved, and do we have a second? Well, we do not have a second. So we still have on the table, what do we want to do? Don't be bashful, guys.
Someone else.
So-
motion.
Okay.
We,
For the
I don't
sake
think
of
that's a
time,
problem.
what I would recommend is we bring up that version. This is what Marissa sent out
Right.
as part of the original packet. Bring that up, slap it on the screen, and we'll and start working through it.
Good.
It's 6:45, guys,
I understand.
and we have a much more
Yep.
important thing called the comprehensive plan update.
And we technically have 24 minutes still on the agenda for this, if you want to hang out. Just that or set of special, another special meeting.
or
We have.
we have two, we could have two possibilities of motions here that are presented to us by staff. Any one of those could be executed.
Do I hear a motion?
It's not quite the way I'd like to say it. So,
Then pick different
Well,
words
Steve,
if
we can
you-
either do a motion to basically defer process or any activity on this motion until a later date that we have to define. Or we can do, as Will says, is put up on the screen the next 22 minutes and
we could
go through it.
We can go through the gut wrenching process of seeing where motions go, and then that'll tell us whether we really gotta do the screen or not. I guess, you know. You could
Well,
raise,
we
make,
just-
we can
The
make,
chair is still listening for a motion.
I'll make a motion to review that PAC suggested revisions and staff responses and continue refining the draft short-term rental regulations.
All right, so.
I know that's not very clear, but
To help staff, you are moving to
basically at this point delaying,
delaying.
defer, we want to
You're
call it,
deferring the motion, you're deferring approval,
deferring approval of this at this moment.
okay?
To be brought before us at some later date.
We need to define the date.
I'm fine with anything in the next 90 days. So within 90 days,
Within 90 days of today.
right?
If you're gonna defer it, I think staff needs to determine when we would bring it back, because
That's
that's,
fine.
yeah.
That's fine. I'm not married to, I'm just, somebody asked me days.
If I may,
So if we say within 90 days, is that acceptable?
if I may, staff's comment coming in was that if we delay, we likely need to delay past the comprehensive
sure.
plan period.
So within 9 months?
At least until we have a draft of the comp plan.
Yeah.
I would expect.
So not earlier than May, like.
No earlier than the end of June.
Well, the term was there till we have, this can be part of the motion, till we have a draft comp plan.
I mean, our
That's
Our
the
deadline-
date- That's the date they're saying. In
our
fact,
deadline is end of June, right? To give a deliverable for the comp plan to the county.
That's to have a draft.
So that kind of implies that July. Since we're basically not out of it, but we've met our obligation, and after that, then we have. In beginning of July, we have time to iron out the SCR stuff.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do is so we either get one way or another here. So that would be my motion.
So
it
the
needs to stay.
text would be, you move to delay review or delay processing of the STR ordinance text until the
Not, yeah.
the draft text of the comp plan has been reviewed.
Plus 30 days.
Plus 3 days is fine.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, no, it's
so we
fine.
can get to it,
Yeah,
but it,
yeah,
yeah.
no problem. Yes, that's my motion.
Well, the staff is gonna need some, some good words. To do. That way it's clear and concise and for the public to understand
Yeah, I know.
what we're really doing.
Did you?
So if I may, Jeff, your motion,
Yes,
not
I
mine,
know.
would be, postpone, PAC further review of the short-term rentals until, completion of the draft comprehensive plan plus 1 month.
That seems pretty clean.
That is what,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
those are your words, if those are your words, those are your words.
I'm
just
I
trying
can
to-
take those as my
Okay.
words.
Okay,
Okay.
Would it be helpful to include completion of the draft and deliver it to the
No,
commissioners?
no,
Is
just,
that extraneous?
Yes,
just try to keep, I was trying to make it
I get
simple.
it, I get it.
He gave me some simple words. I think that,
No, that's cool, that's cool. Just trying to help.
Okay, so did we get it all written down and it makes sense?
Yep.
Okay, so read it back so that way Jeff knows what he said.
Defer SPR discussion until after a completed draft of the comp plan and plus 1 month.
Okay, it's been moved and do I have a second?
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Hearing no further discussion, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
I,
Those opposed?
nay,
Okay, it's 3-2, motion passes. Thank you.
we'll get that. Believe me, we'll get that.
Well, let's see, we got 15 minutes or so. Okay. Moving on to the next item, the comp plan,
Sorry.
land use element. Staff,
Every other Tuesday.
We're gonna leave it clear out.
guess you know, those are hard seat point, folks.
Believe me, I want to get to the decision.
We're ready for the next topic.
yes.
Let me switch over to my presentation.
This is the CCP.
I'm sorry?
This is the CCP stuff, right?
Oh, yeah,
Land use.
land use.
That's right, sorry.
Presentation classes.
this is like a schedule and a layout.
Okay. So
Looking over.
next topic is the land use elements. In particular, we are just talking about the planning policies that are within that are pertaining to land use. And so there were some policies that were in the countywide planning policy document before that were particular to land use. And if you look at the technical memo from FPJ, they pointed out the different components where land use policy and put into the that was the entire document that was also provided to the public. We have those documents, and before we get into those particular ones, I just want to go over the process and where we are. So we went through the countywide planning policies. The PAC made a recommendation on a draft, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, that is on its way to the Board of County Commissioners for review at a public hearing on January 21st. The PAC is also working on the vision statements. I've received some suggestions from, Mike Carroll, who was working on these versions. I've also received some comments from, public members from the public as well. And I will update the PAC and the public on when we will be returning with that vision statement. I will be talking with our consultants on our work plan. I'll be talking with her this week, so possibly on that January 13th meeting date, we may bring that vision statement back to her. So the land use element, it's in review right now with the PAC, the goals and policies and action in particular. The other portion of that land use element is going to be the land use scenarios, which SCJ will bring for review with PAC and public, as well as the narrative and of course updating of the tables and stuff that's also in that land use element. The information that was provided in the community profile as well as our population projections will be implemented into the tables as well as incorporated, sorry. The housing element, so FCS has been working on that. We saw the housing needs assessment from them. The PAC chose the scenario D at their October 7th meeting. So how FCS should be putting together a final draft. They actually may have, I just haven't received it yet. FCS and SCJ should be working on the housing goals and policies, and that will be a topic coming up soon as well. And they should also be working on that narrative and the tables as in the housing element. The other element that is being worked on, we've had our first meeting with the climate planning team. So that was last month. We'll be having our second meeting at the end of this week. And so that's in that process right now, very early stages. I know that the capital facilities and utilities element and transportation element, FCJ has been working in the background of, getting data from the different departments and looking at state requirements in the background right now. So that is where we are with that. For this particular meeting, we're looking at the land use element and the planning policies. So one of the first items that I'm hoping we can make a decision on, so the current adopted plans has a lot of terminology that can be kind of confusing, and I'm hoping we can come to an agreement on something that would be a little bit more concise. This is something that the consultant has also observed as well, is that our comp plan uses goal, policy, action, objectives, strategies, and procedures, whereas it's much simpler to use goal, policy, and action. Your goal is your broader term. You implement policies to work towards that goal, and then you have action pieces that are much more direct. They could be, implementing particular regulation. So I'm hoping we could come to a consensus whether we want to use. Staff is recommending we go forward using goal, policy, and action rather than mixing in objective strategies and procedures when we're going through the policy work. And we can either talk about that now, or we can or talk about it at the end of the presentation. So it's up to you.
I don't see anyone having a burning desire to talk about that, so why don't you just
You want to go on?
move on, yeah.
Okay. So staff recommendation on current policies that you were given. I'm going to go through those. So, oops. Supposed to open a Word document, so give it a minute here. Oh, hang on. I have to do it the old school way. So this is the document that was provided to everyone. It's where the consultant pulled all the land use policies. So a lot of these policies are procedural policies, so master development plan policies. So the original language says adopt regulations to guide, so it's to adopt, well, we've already adopted. So when this plan was updated, I'm thinking that it was it not adopted yet, or it's missed?
It may have been missed, but it was.
Yeah, so we have master development plan policies and we have regulations. We do have adopted regulations. So the only, we do think it's good to keep these policies though in the land use element. The only change is being that we change, of course, adopt to just using regulations and shall guide for the rest of the language. So just those two changes there. The other suggestion, and this was suggested by the one of the consultants, was this policy. So it's looking at the LID, low impact development techniques. That 1.9 is pretty much spelled out in 1.10, goes into more elaborate details. So it's just repetitive. So this would just be cleaning up having multiple policies. So that would be getting rid of 1.9, 1.10 would turn into 1.9. Of course, the numbering would change there, and that would be something.
Marissa, do you want questions as we go through this?
Let me go ahead and get through it because it's not
You got
a
it.
lot really. So
Okay.
I didn't have any comments on the housing element. Policies in there, a lot of them, are one, they're obviously policies that we are need and are mandated to fulfill the mandates by state. And then in this section, urban growth. So these are also procedural as well. This is a review and amend the comprehensive plan, the cycle. It's actually a 10-year cycle, not a 5-year cycle, and we have the option to update on an annual basis if needed, consistent with GMA. So staff isn't recommending any changes in this urban growth, the section 1, because all of this is procedural stuff. It talks about how we process mapping errors, allowing certain submission requests like public amendments, and the category of the comp plan amendments that can be considered. The only thing that's different is that number 5 there says provoke development, which supports multi-mode reform. So that's not really in a procedural section, but the rest of that is. Reduce sprawl in section 2. These are the majority of legal proposal as well. It talks about how the county needs to plan for facilities or the 20-year planning program. And it talks about annexation. It talks about the process and the communication and coordination that the county and the city need to have regarding that process. So a lot of those policies are also procedural as well. We don't have any recommended changes for that. And And I have no changes for the subdivision section as well. And that is pretty much it. Staff didn't have a lot of recommendation for any changing.
Okay, Will, you have some.
Yeah, if you want to throw that back up. Yeah. So page 1. Section 1.3, we talked about roads, water, drainage, sewer, and septic. Do we want to include electrical? That, require that adequate, including electrical, exists or is planned to meet the demand for the proposed development?
And staff would just nuance that by, if you choose to do that, I would say power as a generic.
That's fine,
term,
yeah,
but I-
power's good,
I-
yeah, power's good, yeah. That's actually a very good catch. Paragraph 1.5, I want to be real clear here before I start my comments. I am all for affordable housing. And I am seriously struggling with how to do it, okay? Short of publicly subsidized housing, I haven't figured out how to make houses cheaper yet. And as some members of the public, outside of my position here, I'm trying to work with folks to find some ideas. So when we talk about in 1.5, encourage flexibility in design to promote a variety of housing types and densities and affordability. So how are we going to, what are we going to encourage in design that's going to create some type of house, some type of density that makes it affordable? And I'm just going with, right now, we're at $300 a square foot and 7% interest rates. And even if FOMAC, based on the dot plot drops 7 to say 5% here in 18 months, 24 months, 5% interest at $300 a square foot is going to be real challenging. And given, when we say affordability, my understanding of affordability, the definition I'm using is 30% of my take-home pay. And if my annual mean income is 60% or less of typical in Mason County, that's a very small number to have a home, however I'm renting or buying or whatever. And that's where I struggle with, when we start to use the word affordability, are we implying to the public that somehow by taking these steps, we're going to get there? Because as I've tried to connect the dots, I can't get them connected. So are we overstating what we think we can do because we'll see that word repeat a lot.
And this item is an action item or a policy?
I think the term would be action. This is what
Okay.
we would.
Okay, fine.
I don't want to misstate.
It's a policy that would support regulations, and from a staff perspective, it's since the county is not providing housing at any cost level, it's the county allowing a variety of housing types so that housing gets built more readily, which puts housing into the market in Econ 101. So your supply goes up, your amount goes down.
Unless you got too much money chasing.
This policy is really just focusing on encouraging the flexibility in design, so it promotes housing types, densities, and affordability.
To me, it's like when you're encouraging and promoting, those are action.
Well, and thank you, Kel. And maybe my comment is just that, a comment. We do absolutely nothing. I feel because we'll come back to this theme throughout. And we've affordable housing is one of the key topics that has been brought to us by public. I would say easily 50% of the PAC meetings, we have someone saying, please take a hard look at this. And I just haven't found anyone or any group of people, maybe I'm talking around folks, they just don't have a solution, but this is a nationwide issue. We are not unique.
It's really touching more on philosophical.
Yeah, and that's, I just,
For our purpose here, we're just saying encourage flexibility
yeah,
and whatever, let
well,
in my opinion, try to reduce upfront costs so people are
okay.
incentivized to build whatever. And we're talking about cost per square foot. I've heard suggestions, well, here's this type of housing with reduced square footage, but still very comfortable place to live. Say it costs $100,000, at 6%. What is that? 500-600 a month?
About 600.
Huh?
At 600.
6 or 7% mortgage rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So principal and interest is,
Yeah.
Whatever, 600-700.
A bunch.
Or maybe it costs you.
So,
I've heard a suggestion of a type of housing. It's 50,000. Well, that's like $200-300 a month, principal and interest plus whatever.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, the free market. If there's a need and whatever, free market tends to solve things.
Well,
yeah, and
it's-
again, it's gonna get philosophical, and I'll withdraw my
Is there
comment here in a
anything else you
second.
want to bring up?
But if you have a house that's 8 sheets of plywood large,
I'm sorry to get.
if you have a house that its footprint is 8 sheets of plywood, it's 700 square feet plus a little. That's $76,000. You throw in utility hookups and a piece of land, it's $125,000 for something smaller than the size of this room. And there are folks that with some of the incomes we have, that's not plausible. And at that point, I would argue that may not be a reasonable house, given some of these aren't individuals, but they're families, whatever that means.
Right,
So
that's a separate debate.
Yeah, no,
I think for our
absolutely.
purpose, tonight, encourage flexibility. That's good.
all right.
I don't think we need to define what they are. That'll be
Okay.
those are different debates.
All right.
So is there
I-
anything else in here?
And
Okay.
so I would like to go to 110 as we talk about the low impact development. I would like the PAC consider requesting a presentation on LID as we move forward. And there's some very little review, and I want to understand what does that potentially mean for us here in Mason County. There's a lot of it deals a lot with storm drainage. It deals with what do we do with rainwater as it comes down? And it's things of, there's a variety of different ways of ponding and collecting. There's talk of porous pavements to where the pavement is no longer impervious, but actually it just soaks through. As a pavements guy, that my question is, what does that do to the life cycle costs? There are some thoughts out there of basically single lane roads. You have much narrower roads going into housing areas, therefore reducing the amount of pavement and therefore the non-pervious soils. You're talking, building up, not out, which is good, but I want to balance that to my friend here, Mr. Jeff's comment of some of us aren't as young as we used to be, and stairs are becoming more of an obstacle. And therefore we want out, not up, and yet we have LID potentially, I just want to understand, I want someone a lot smarter than me to come in here and talk about how might we do some of these things in our UGAs. Because I honestly don't know. LID is state level, is being directed as I understand it, and we have smart people to correct me if I booger it up. But I just like to understand more of what's involved.
Question on these master development plan policies, they're applicable both in urban growth areas as well as rural?
Yes, we do have the ability to do a master plan development in the rural area.
Okay,
I think it's a minimum of 200 acres.
okay.
So that's
Thank
111.
Thank you.
111, require all master development plans to include specific design guidelines and development and standards to ensure the proposed development promotes a community identity. Is this to say, is this potentially recommending architectural standards for future, initial and future constructions? I've on air bases, suffice to say, there are architectural standards. Your building was one of three colors. And by the way, the walls were one, the trim was another, and the gutters were the third. And that's how every building was painted, just the way it was. I gotta believe we're not going there. I just want to verify that's not what this is driving us to.
The master development plan regulations have been adopted now, so I'd have to take a look at those.
Okay.
See what they say specifically about design standards. I doubt they go into the detail that you're talking about because this is Mason County and we don't
go there. Yeah.
review board or
Okay,
anything like that, but it probably has some general
good.
design guidelines.
All right. That's all I have on that section. Housing. You have anything on that section, Jeff? First one?
Well, no. The reason I'm gonna say no is because when I got my instructions and reading this, I was thinking one way, looking at another, and then realizing tonight we're going in different directions. Like, oh, great. I'm thinking this whole problem one way and we're going another way.
All right.
The only thing I could say is that are we still using, first of all, is it even possible to do in a fully contained community anymore? I mean, when I think about what that implies, I mean, I don't think, first of all, I don't think it's feasible. I don't think it's attainable.
And if
Is it a requirement we still have to have these?
You talking about the master development plan?
No, I moved on. I'm sorry.
So-
He moved me on
Yeah.
to housing and
He's on page 3 under chapter 5, housing, number 4.
But that is what a master plan development is a fully contained community. So providing for a new fully contained community is what we did under the master development.
Okay.
They're a fully contained community.
Is there a definition in that what fully contained is? I just didn't know, Kellen.
I saw something in RCWs.
Find in the master development plan, it's Mason County Code 17.70. And so the details are in there. But fully contained essentially means you have your own sewer. It's all your infrastructure
Okay.
that is providing for the residential and commercial development within the master development plan. So it's a, and that's why, to Jeff's point, it is expensive. Because you're providing all of that infrastructure upfront for the development.
So fully contained is more relation to infrastructure. Okay. Yeah, I went down. Oh boy. Yeah, I said, I wonder if they're talking about schools, medical.
Yeah, infrastructure could mean all that.
Oh, yeah, could.
Fire, schools. It depends on how large it is. I mean, there's all kinds of things that come up that determine it with basic.
Like Glenrick has, I'm hearing 3 common wells that they all use. So that's sort of an example.
No, that's just a large subdivision.
Yeah, because it's
So
not,
it'd be if there was also commercial development
Right.
in your
Oh, okay.
schools, and so it's like growing a city out of nothing. Is a fully contained.
So if Will wanted to have Willville out there by Matlock that had all this stuff, then that would be
If you have at least 200 acres and all the money to do all your infrastructure.
So I fail on 2 notes on that one. So.
item number 2, going back up. When we establish a UGA, I don't think that we're establishing it to enough to minimize restrictions. I don't think, I mean, that's never, I mean, is that really how the county approaches this? Doesn't seem, that's not really, in my mind, why you establish the urban growth area. Yeah, item number 2. What do you think, Cal?
I think that's great.
Okay,
I have questions too.
well, I mean,
Well, I guess my question was, do the UGA size limits, right, do the current UGA sizes limit or restrict residential land supply now or with the estimated growth? Now,
Yeah.
my observation is no.
That's like to me is, okay, so we can leave this in here, well written, a little funny is basically, one of our actions would be is to, establish an urban growth area or maintain an urban growth area large enough to minimize restrictions on residential land supply. Boom, done. Again, I'm on that one. My question is, how does this affect affordable housing? I guess the question would be is we would just want to have small enough lots of land so they're relatively cheap to help and support affordable housing.
To me, I just soon got two out of there.
Yeah, I'm.
Because I mean, when you create an urban growth area, you're doing it for fundamentally two different things, residential and commercial.
Mhm.
And to say that, we're doing it large enough to handle. Yeah, I don't see where,
There's quite a bit of a contradiction in there.
yeah. I mean,
Or like Kel said, extreme clarification on the wording. What does it really mean?
Yeah, staff could work on wordsmithing that, bring something else back.
that would, yeah, because otherwise my inclination is if it had to stand, it just take it out.
Right.
Doesn't do anything. I
Okay.
guess that's enough for that.
And then since we're going in the up direction, number one, encouraging a range of lot sizes, development densities and housing types to meet the needs of a diverse population and provide affordable housing choices for all income levels. Is there something we can do different than what we're doing today to further encourage affordable housing with regards to lot sizes or development densities? That's just an open question.
Not yet.
We'll get there.
I don't know what I don't know.
Mhm. By the way, Mike, Randy, Brad, do you guys have anything to say on any of this stuff? We've got
Mutton chop.
these guys over here talking a lot and asking questions, so I'm wondering if you guys, want to chip in.
I was just looking, I did a search for fully contained communities. And I thought I put a sentence in the chat that perhaps we should refer to RCW 3670 Alpha .350. That section of the RCW does have a couple paragraphs.
Do they help?
It does say what they are.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
We're having a little bit of confusion right now.
So the comprehensive plan will have a glossary. It may already have that in the glossary, we'll have to check, but that is, if it's not in the glossary, we say.
Put it in.
That too does kind of confuse me. It's like, are we tasked to create a specific urban growth area to somehow provide affordable housing, is that what that is?
Well, we took that big policy out. You remember in the kind of wide policies?
Mhm.
Remember there was the UGA being brought in there and we took that out
Oh, that's been taken out.
in the context of county-wide policies.
Question. This housing element, is this a first draft from SCJ? What's the source of this?
This is what the current.
The
plan
current,
that's-
okay. I guess,
It needs reworking.
yeah, well, and I got a motion for this, but we'll take care of that later. I want to hear from others and we want to hear
All right,
from
so
the public
let's,
first.
we,
But for the UGA, you know, we're not discussing at all at this point establishing a UGA. We have 3, we're maintaining 3. And so it's only a function of, you know, do they grow, do they change densities or capabilities to, you know, further the right things for our community. But yeah,
It sounds like you're saying that needs to be reworded.
oh yeah,
Okay,
Now, I'll remind everyone, this is a work session, so we're just making suggestions and we'll
Yeah.
take public comment afterwards. Motions would be later.
okay, so you want to continue,
Remember?
Yeah.
Next section.
I have no comments on the next 3 pages.
Anybody else?
Is that talking about chapter 2, county-wide planning policies?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, just clarify one thing in my mind. So like you said, these county-wide planning policies we did earlier these are just the existing ones now?
So these are in the current plan,
Yeah,
the last plan, that last cycle.
right.
The manager at the time pulled all the planning policies from each element and put them into that chapter 2 with the countywide planning policies. And they were under a heading called objectives and procedures. So these are the planning policies these were the planning policies that were pulled into chapter 2.
So did the one we do here before, because we had urban growth area and sprawl and things like that, did that supersede this? Or,
I guess I'm not in there.
okay, so we did something here back, the night we spent here till.
one of the late nights.
Yeah. I'm confused here. We're saying these are planning policies and then, you know, like for urban growth areas, just take that one area. And I'm saying we had countywide planning policies that we did, right?
So we also have planning policies that are under an urban growth.
Okay, the countywide planning policies are for Mason County and all of its cities, which for us, we only have Shelton.
Right,
So those are the broad policies for the countywide and all of its cities.
correct.
And that includes the urban growth areas.
Okay,
And we did that under the countywide planning policies. Now we're looking at just the land use section. And what Marissa said, the previous update, we had a planning manager who had a unique way of looking at this and didn't fully understand, and they stripped every policy out of the comprehensive plan and put it under a chapter called objectives and procedures.
Well, a heading.
A heading.
Sounds like.
And so now we're just trying to take those policies back and put them with the correct element of the comprehensive plan. So land use, housing, transportation, you will see some overlapping policies, but
Right.
this is why it seems a little awkward, is because we're just trying to put it back in the normal context of a comprehensive plan
Gotta hit the undo.
that has policies for each required element
so
of
should,
your plan.
so, okay, I can appreciate that. So before we look at this, wouldn't we get our other planning policies that we did for urban growth, take urban growth areas, get that solid that we drawn through that 2 or 3 hours. And then see whether this want to keep or remove or just do whatever it is we want to do with these. Does that make any sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, if you want to go back and look at the countywide planning policies that you put forward, recommended for approval to the board, which is going January. Which date? January 21st to the
I
board.
mean, you're just making sure that these don't conflict with the countywide planning policies that you already.
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, I don't have any problem with the concept that maybe we have them in two places. I can live with that for a moment. But then don't we need to take these and compare them to this before we send that on to the board and make sure if these are actually policies also that might not be.
Oh, okay, look at the top, it says assured compliance with the Growth Management Act for this heading. It says assured compliance with Growth Management Act, the countywide planning policy, which the comprehensive plan and land use map, and all adopted land use, environmental, and so forth. So these aren't county-wide though, this is just county, that doesn't include the city. Correct.
Okay. I hear the words. I'm having trouble. I guess I'll be quiet and listen longer and try to learn more.
All right,
I'm just not there at this point yet. I'm confused.
okay, moving on. Unless there's any other questions or comments.
Well, it sounds like we have to amend look at the plan a minimum every 5 years, but it can be looked at annually if you feel like there's a need.
Right.
Is that what I'm reading?
The state.
Yeah, I think Kel told me that a few months ago.
State mandates this cycles every 10 years now, but we can look at it every year.
Like if there's an influx of 10,000 people for some reason
Drove.
or a plague, then
Well, and
we can adjust.
that there are elements of the comp plan that are required to be updated annually, and that's the transportation plan and the capital facilities plan that you guys,
Okay,
a portion of you went through more robust look at that. So those have to be updated annually, and then the public can make, and they can request that the county make amendments, and we do that once per year. That rarely happens. But if we want to make comp plans, we're only allowed to do it once per year. If it's outside of that, capital facilities and transportation.
so it's there if you need it.
Again,
It's there if you need it.
yes.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Scroll on down. Looks like this is a hit. Might as well scroll on down some more.
I have no more comments.
I have comments, but I'm gonna hold it at this point until.
I think he got replaced by a clone. You're unjust.
I'm Jeff. I have no comments either for this section either.
That was all.
This point.
Anybody else? I'm gonna move on to the next section of the presentation.
Okay,
Please do.
you must have a hot date or something.
No, it's just, I can't get where I want to get. It's kind of like, okay, let's move to the next.
Can I ask a quick question? Why don't they like cul-de-sacs?
Master development line? Is that what, or something?
Yeah, I saw something about basically you don't try to avoid cul-de-sacs, which You can,
Oh, what's
you can
that?
tell me later. It's not,
Well, it's having to do with roads.
General circulation.
okay.
It's, some people have a preference for a grid city and some don't.
Okay. Sorry, minor thing, just curious.
Ever been the federal way?
Unfortunately. I'm so glad I don't live up in Seattle anymore.
Okay, that's one, probably nothing for tonight. One that function doesn't work on. Okay.
Another strange one was Dallas.
I'm sorry,
Said another strange one was Dallas.
Dallas. Oh, okay. I've only been in the airport.
Okay, so you all were provided the GMA checklist. Just regarding land use, the land use section. And so on the left side of that checklist, you have what's mandated by the state for us to address in our comp plan or our regulations, both. So, and then we have a column, is it in the current plan? Yes, site where, and then if changes are needed, yes or no, if changes are needed. Sorry, if it is in the plan, you cite, and then the notes, the consultant filled in where, what kind of information is in that reference. In portions that say, yes, that means we may need to review to double check if, we have policies or regulations that actually meet that mandate. This particular one, at the top where it says yes. So we obviously, we've been working with the city's aware of our growth projections and the housing needs. We're aware of the UGA sizes and if any expansion needs to occur there or not. So we have information in, our plan that will have to be updated. Obviously, the population projections have to be updated for the 2025 to 2045 period, which the consultant is working on. The only other one that had yes, that would apply. And I originally thought we didn't have anything other than what the consultant noted on there. This is for reference letter N there. I don't know if everybody can see that because it's kind of small. I might be able to. I might not be able to because it's not going to me. The letter N there. So if there's an airport within the county policy, land use designations and zoning to discourage the siting of incompatible uses adjacent to general aviation airports. So the consultant originally filled this out as, yes, we may need to check our policies and regulations and add policies that discourage the siting of incompatible uses. They noted that the only reference that they had was in a glossary that talked about airport influence zone and airport impact zones. Well, I did a little bit more research and I go back to the PowerPoint. So regarding airports, so what the consultant probably didn't see, and this is probably because, they aren't as familiar with our code. And it's a little bit more abstract. So we do have additional policies on airports and it's actually noted in the transportation plan. it references the Shelton Airport Master Plan. So in the transportation plan, we have policy 1.3.4, which says support the Port of Shelton goals and policies that's outlined in the Shelton Airport Master Plan and its roadway designations under the aviation administration and so forth. And then the other thing is we have an airport overlay zone ordinance, which references incompatible uses already. So I'm in the opinion that we are okay with that mandate, but we will be checking with the port to see if there's anything, if they have any additional input on airport policies in that section. So I will try to get in contact with them between now and the next time we bring this back to see if there's anything other than the airport overlay zone ordinance and its reference to the policies that are within the Shelton Airport Industrial Plan. But we do reference their policies about incompatible adjacent uses already. So that concludes my portion that I have on the land use element policies. I will give it back to the PAC here and what they want to do, if they want to discuss or public comment.
Well, we've been kind of talking all along. Is there some burning thing we want to discuss now that staff has concluded their presentation?
Personally, I'd like to hear from the public personally.
Before we do that, just a couple quick questions. So when I go through the list here, land use element list, I basically read that we are okay at the land for land use. We are okay. Okay, so we're okay really except population changes. And this is land use element only. Right?
So this is just updating the tables. I mean,
Yes.
they have to be updated to meet.
But when I sit back and say the land use element itself fundamentally has all the structure there. We may have to tone up this part or that part, but fundamentally all the bones are in place, with the exception of we got to take care of population. I like the big smile in the back of the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. No questions.
Okay,
I'm good.
No, I'm good.
how about you, Brad?
Nope, I agree. I see the public has dwindled, but they've been patient, so we ought to accept their comments.
Sounds good. Sure, identify yourself.
My name is Jacob Ackley. One thing I'm gonna say is I think the one way to do affordable housing is to be very clever about like what you do. Like, for example, this isn't necessarily affordable, but like build townhouses, which are quite dense but quite spacious where they kind of go up more.
Mhm.
You could also do cottage housing where you kind of get like you get a huge lot of land and you just kind of put a bunch of houses together. They'd each have their own space. They wouldn't be like right next to each other, but it'd be a lot cheaper for them. Basically, just make smaller houses in some areas so that more people can afford housing, so the cost of housing goes down.
Thank you, Jacob.
Linda Links from Shelton, Lynch Road. So I'm not really sure where this fits in, but I read on the land use 2.4. I've said this before, I don't see aquaculture. And I'll read you this little statement that says agricultural resource lands. This designation is intended to recognize and protect unique resources due to the nature of their operations are sensitive to abutting land use. It's intended to minimize the impact of intrusion of less compatible land uses. Well, so I want to make sure that we include those incompatible land uses when you're thinking of growing oysters. When you put a development above a saltwater area, that's incompatible with protecting the resource, the natural resource. And I don't seem to see that word aquaculture enough in here. It seems like it's always agriculture. And they're really kind of the same thing. They're both farming. So, thank you.
Steph?
Linda, what section were you referring to?
Oh, 2.4 land use, zoning district, agricultural resource, and I'm not very good at.
Ms. Kirsty, again, so my last one previously, but it's Kirsty Rose. I'm a resident of Pelton. I think it's easy to look at the complexities of affordable housing and get overwhelmed by the big picture items. It's easy to let the discussion end there. But tackling affordable housing means chipping away at tiny changes in creative ways. In the existing land goals, let's see, land use 1.5, it says encourage flexibility in design to promote a variety of housing types and densities. And I think that that's one way that our county kind of is lacking in comparison to other counties. I have a background in commercial and residential design, so I'm pretty familiar with building codes. I understand there's building code limitations with the state codes and IBC code. However, we're like forgetting about a whole range of housing potentials. Our county does not allow tiny axles according to the RCWs, and that is distinctly different than like Thurston County and Pierce County. So if a tiny house has wheels, it's not allowed to be lived in. It's considered a mobile vehicle in our county, which is surprising when you see the amount of people that are being forced to live in their RVs and mobile homes, things like that. And I just wonder if that is something that's obtainable, because I think that in my experience with other people is that when given the option of living in a tiny house or living in a small structure versus having no home at all, then the answer is hands down having a small structure. And then when it comes to land use and zoning, I'd like to give some personal experience. I own 5 acres of forest land in just outside of city limits. I'm over near the Lake Limerick area, and I bought it in 2019, and it was designated forest land. The issue with that is that even though I got my land at an affordable rate at the time, I then now had to convert it, the entire parcel, to rural residential, because by our RCWs, you can't have designated forest land less than 5 acres. And so even though I don't plan on using all of the 5 acres, I only plan on using 1 acre to live on. I now have to pay the property taxes for the entirety of 5 acres when I could be zoning that as designated forest, 4 acres as designated forest land. And I think that that does make a difference when you're thinking about affordable options. Also, that 5 acres, like that's this in my neighborhood of 6 properties that were subdivided, 5 acres, the smallest that was possible where we are. It could not be made smaller. So I had no option to buy 2 acres or 3 acres. It had to be 5 acres. And then I had to put all of that into rural resident zoning. So these are the small things and small ways that I think that it's important to look at when you're thinking of the whole picture of affordable housing. You know, changing a property tax bill from being in the hundreds to being over 1,000 makes a big difference by the end of the year when you're low income. So I'd like the PAC to make consideration for creative ways to provide housing.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Julianne Gales. and I live in the Belfair area. I just wanted to maybe address some of your questions, Jeff, to start around like, wait, how do the CPPs fit in with the land use element? And my understanding is that the CPPs, although they were part of the comp plan in the past, got pulled out and are an overarching big policy. And many of the suggestions that and edits that the more than a dozen people made on the CPPs, we were told, hold those comments to the specific chapters of the comp plan that address those things. So right now we're talking about the land use chapter. It's particularly confusing because in the CPPs, there was no section that said land use. There was a section that said reduce sprawl and a section that said rural and a section that said open spaces, all of which connect to the land use part of the RCWs and of the comp plan. All that being said, part of my comment is, we heard when we made the comments that, and not all of them were addressed right away, that those same comments would apply to the appropriate chapter. So a question I have for you all and for staff is how will our recommendations on, for example, open space or any other part of the CPPs that touched on the land use element be addressed in this chapter? For example, we suggested that active and potential habitats for all species be preserved and identified and maintained, that we consider ecosystem services and mature forests, the quality and quantity of available water for all species, and taking into account impacts of changing climate and environmental justice. And those things are referenced in RCW 3670A070, which is the mandatory elements of the comprehensive plan. For example, in section 1, it says a land use element needs to consider open spaces and green spaces. The land use element shall provide for protection of the quality and quantity of groundwater used for public water supplies. The land use element must give special consideration to achieving environmental justice in its goals and policies, including efforts to avoid creating or worsening environmental health disparities. So I ask that gets explicitly put into the land use chapter. And it doesn't even have to be specific action items, but at least there should be that goal. And I think all of us can agree that everybody should have clean air to breathe and clean water to drink, and that no one particular group of people should suffer greater environmental impacts than any other group of people. I also wanted to address the pieces about affordable housing. I know
close to your 3-minute limit.
Okay, there is affordable housing gets its own chapter, so I know we're going to address many things there. I hear you say, well, how are we going to address affordable housing except for public subsidized housing? And I mean, part of your question is the answer. Public subsidized housing has to be part of the solution because that is the point of what the government is supposed to do, is serve the public when people can't make a profit on it. And in the 2022 housing needs assessment.
Does the board want to continue on this? Because she's over her 3-minute limit.
No.
If we can do it within a minute, I'm fine.
Yeah. Oh, you want
You know,
to
you go ahead.
and then I'll let you.
No,
go.
I want you.
Okay.
I support that.
In the 2022 housing needs assessment, there was about 500 extremely low income and very low income houses that were identified as being needed in the next 5 years, starting in 2022. We can't keep kicking the can down the road. This is our community. It is actually more expensive for us to handle people being houseless and all of the challenges that come with that than to actually just bite the bullet, roll our sleeves up, work together, find the public funding, support the various things like, for example, the City of Shelton vote tomorrow, that will actually create the possibilities to invest in our community and our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian.
My name is Brianna Daniels, and I have a couple of questions because I'm new here. So I would just like to know how long have you owned a house in Mason County?
6 years.
How long have you owned a house in Mason County?
Me,
Yeah,
well, I've won 2 houses over like 23 years.
okay, so you own 2 houses in Mason
No,
County.
no, no, no. I had one house, got rid of it, got another house. First one was like 23 years ago.
Okay, so you've owned houses in Mason County for over 20 years,
Yeah,
right? What about you?
I moved back home after a career in the military 4 years ago. My folks have had a home here for the past 25.
Nice. What about you?
25 years,
What-
25.
25? 5?
5, yeah.
Have any of you been homeless in this county?
Never been homeless.
You haven't? You've never been homeless at all?
I've been
Have you-
homeless in other places.
So you understand what it's like for some of the folks here in Mason County?
I try to, yes.
Okay. I want you guys, instead of thinking about while you're sitting in your nice homes that you own, that you can afford, I want you to think about all the people that are within this community that makes up a whole lot more than just the white men at this table. There's a lot of inequality up here with not having enough women, people of color, or people in different classes, people that rent, maybe, people that maybe have to live in public housing that are on this board. And it is your job to serve the people of Mason County. It's also your job to make sure that your board is being equal for everybody within Mason County, not just the homeowners.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I make one comment? There is an open position on the PAC at this time. I would encourage all the public, regardless of gender, race, religion, or anything else, please consider.
Making
What?
sure you're in the district that's open.
Yeah, make sure you're in the district, or if it's an at-large one, whatever. My comment being, one of the challenges we have in our community is we have many boards. The transportation board currently has 3 vacancies out of 9. Okay, I encourage, everyone, if you don't apply, and if you believe that our skin color and our gender is defining how we make decisions, please join us. I like to think we don't, but I'll let
second that
others make
motion.
it.
Really quick, Brianna Daniels again. My comment on that is that there's no, well, like there's no, sorry.
This is if I may, this is a tough emotional topic. It's
No, it
very
is.
clear your background, your loved ones, your experience or whatever. I mean, I can see it pouring out of you right
Well,
here.
it's been in Mason County
Yeah.
in the last
This is
year.
important to her.
Yeah.
It is
No,
very important.
absolutely.
It's very important as a woman. It's very important as a person who has family members in this community that are of color. And when I look up here and I see you guys all just ha 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 and kiki about, well, we don't know what to do about the situation, so let's just push it back another year. Let's just push it back. Well, there's people right now that need that. I make less than $44,000 a year and I pay over $1,200 a month. My place is small. I live in a not so great area, an urban development area. I do like my place though. I do wish it was safer. I wish I had more street lights so I could walk at night as a woman, because there's none of that for us here. But what I'm saying is, you guys as a board, it is your responsibility to make sure that everyone within Mason County is being heard. Not just your guys' pockets, not just your families, but the families that make up this community, because without everybody else, what community would there be? That's all I wanted you guys to think about. It had nothing to do with just race and just sex and all that. It had to do with bringing everyone to the table, because this is an everyone issue.
It is. And Brianna, if you do have time, I'd love to talk to you just for a couple minutes afterwards and see how we can further a conversation. And there's others in this room. I've had the same discussion with many, is let's talk outside of this one-on-one. Because I'd love to get smarter. We aren't going to solve these problems in 3-minute discussions.
No, and you're not gonna solve them by pushing them back and running down clocks either.
Yep.
Okay, has everyone down here had a chance to discuss? Okay, how about on the line?
Nothing here from Carlberg.
Okay, how about Mr. Van Buskirk for Marion?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, going once, going twice. All right, so we've heard from the public, both resident here and online. And we have. Anyone else have anything to say? Hearing nothing from the commissioners, I don't think we need a motion, do we? Okay, so
If I may, as a next step. I mean, I had, and some of the comments were very good. I think we need to, yeah, housing, we need to work on those 4 comments.
all right,
And then the other 2 sections at this point, I think we need to very specifically, Ms. Gale noted some very specific things that need to be in there and to tie out. Need to make sure, and this is to some of the comments from staff in previous meetings, we need to be appropriate with regards to climate change. Because at some points it was, one of the comments at one point was, it has its own chapter and it needs to be there. Environmental justice is different, and so we need to sort through that. I think it's probably worthwhile to understand exactly what are we trying to ensure that we are not, that we are equally ensuring we all experience the same environment. The good water, the good air, not being next to a site that might be, have some previous bad things that happened there, contamination, et cetera. But we need to know what that list of stuff is, so we understand what we are potentially recommending the Board of Commissioners to accept as our community, and then the follow along that goes to that. Because there's a lot of differing ideas out there, so
that's true.
I don't know if this sounds like something that we're gonna have to come back to at some point with edits from others than us, people with better knowledge and background. I mean, some of those are sitting in the room. So,
Well,
I wanted to make more comments.
thank you. Yeah,
The
correct me.
comments that we received from the county-wide planning policies that we said may be appropriate in the other sections. So the consultant did a great job of taking that matrix that I had to put together quickly and separating the comments into what elements it would pertain to. So we have that. So next meeting, we can provide that to the PAC and the public, so they can make their decisions on whether they think it's an appropriate addition to that particular element. So
That might be real helpful, because then if someone made a comment, they can see where their comment is going. Okay, or not, or whatever the disposition is. What the disposition is, where it is. That would be very helpful.
we'll have that.
okay. Well, seeing as how everyone has had their say and stuff, and there's no other discussion, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, oh, you can have it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded.
got
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. And have a Merry